Welcome back to another episode of Pen and Prosper, where JT Lawrence is coaching me, Melissa Delport, to be a six-figure author, and we are putting it on the internet. Today is another guest episode. We are so excited to have Mr. Caroline today. Jamie Brooks is here. He is the Amazon specialist, Amazon ads. He is running JT's ads. They are seeing great things happening there. He has so kindly offered to come on and give us a little bit of his wisdom. I'm so looking forward to this because that's one thing I'm not doing is Amazon ads at all, because every time I try, it just sucks my money. But I know that Charlene has great success with Amazon ads, and you are having
they're going really well. Jamie's a data scientist with lots of experience, so like he really knows what he's doing. You'll see that like he'll just be talking about stuff and we won't really know what he's talking about, but we'll just go along with it.
I'm sure we have some smart subscribers who can figure it out and let us know. Kicking off, we would like to thank our paid subs. We would like to thank Elize, our editor extraordinaire, and as always, we would like to thank our paid sponsor, Vellum, without whom we would not be putting books so easily on the internet. If you do want to try Vellum, we have spoken about this before.
We have a Vellum link, so it's in the show notes. And basically, you just go and play around with Vellum, format your books, have fun. It doesn't cost you anything until you want to export the book. Then it's like publisher ready to go.
With that being said, I believe Jamie is in the waiting room.
Yes, he is. Are you ready? So I'll introduce you guys. Delport, Melissa Delport. This is Jamie Brooks. He's a data scientist.
Hello, Jamie. Hello.
He's an AMS expert and he does my ads for me, and I'm very, very grateful for him and his wife. Friend of the show, Caroline.
I know, I called you Mr. Caroline earlier. I said, I'm so excited to hear from Mr. Caroline. Look at her, she's waving from all the orifices.
Mr. Caroline. It's better than John, I suppose.
I'm very excited for this episode because I have never run a successful Amazon ad in my life, and I'm quite, I think like a lot of authors, intimidated by them, super intimidated. So I'm so grateful for any wisdom that you could share. Obviously, we know we can't give all our secrets up, but I'm super excited to hear what you have to say.
Jamie, don't give away too many secrets, because then I won't have the competitive edge that I have at the moment.
And then Mark will be devastated.
Yes. So we'll keep the chat really casual today, and I don't have any formal questions. I just wondered if we could just chat about AMS in general, and also like, what do you think that authors should know about AMS that they don't know? And then maybe just give us some handy tips and tricks that you don't mind sharing.
Okay, cool. I came to authors after working in corporate for 35 years. And when I left, author friends kind of tied me to a chair and said, we wanted to go through everything. When I got to the AMS part of looking at that data, it was really, really clear that the AMS front end is designed to sell toasters and not really to sell books. So I kind of thought, how do I work with this? It's all there. You just got to really dig around for it to find out what you need to find out. And it's normally spread over several pages. So I've written my own thing, but it is all there. It's just not the best tool for authors, because at the end of the day, Amazon are using it to sell everything on the internet. So, I mean, what's the best place to start? ACOS. Let me tell you about ACOS.
Yeah, let's talk about ACOS.
Because I hear the ACOS far too much. ACOS is, again, designed to sell toasters.
Okay, so sorry, Jamie, just for people listening who may not know what ACOS is, it's the actual cost of sale, right? So it's costing you to get a sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Effectively, yeah. So the problem with ACOS is that when we spend on our AMS, we see all of the money we've spent. But when we get back information about sales and reads, that's not all of it, because quite a lot of it isn't trackable. Yeah. So what they try and do is when somebody clicks, they try and tie that up to any reads and sales that come within the next 14 days, and the next 14 days only. If somebody's on an Apple product, a lot of the metadata will get stripped away. So if somebody uses Apple, you may not see any reads or sales. So you've got all that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what
I'm an Apple girly.
So when you're looking at all the cost, you're only looking at a bit of the sales and reads.
Okay.
As a rule of thumb, and I'm pretty sure I've heard you speak about this before, between 2 and 3 times of your sales will come through to KDP eventually. And sometimes up to 5 times the reads comes through. So that what I would say is, rather than looking at ACOS, if you basically add up the dollar, pound, whatever value of the sale, the dollar, pound value of the reads, if that comes to half of what you spent, it's probably breaking even.
That's a nice, easy way to look at it.
Yeah, if it matches what you spent, you're in theory doubling up. Because the problem with ACOS is it's focusing purely on the sales, and that's good for some genres like thriller. But if you're looking at, what will I call them, bare chests, for want of a better word, a romantically spicy kind of women's fiction, where people don't want to show the cover on the bus,
Yes.
they're more likely to read it electronically. In which case, they're effectively going to spend usually about 80% on actual ebooks or reading. And if you don't factor that in, I've seen a lot of authors that are saying it's not working. But when I look at the dashboard, yeah, they are working. It's just that they don't understand.
It's funny that you say that, because that's exactly how I judge my ROI when I look at my Amazon dashboard. If I'm making half of what it says I'm making, then I know that we're fine.
Yeah, you like to break even.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it goes a little bit further than that, because especially with a series or even standalones, there's read-through, which I factor in to forecast forward what something's going to outturn. So if it only tracks the clicks for 14 days, you may get read-through for those people that binge. But if it's the person that's reading for 20 minutes on the bus to work in the morning, they're not even going to get to the end of book one before the 14 days runs out.
Yeah.
And that read-through will still keep coming in. And, people often refer to that as organics down the line and stuff like that.
It makes it so difficult to see if you are getting a good ROI. And I can see why so many people just give up on AMS and never want to touch it again, because it just looks like you're losing money hand over fist. An author we interviewed, a South African supernatural author who's doing so well. She's doing ridiculously well. The only advertising she does is a little bit of AMS, and it always tells her that she's losing money, and she's killing it.
Yeah.
Very common. Very, very common.
So is that the main thing you wish authors knew about AMS, to basically just not trust the ACOS and to keep in mind the mathematical formula if you are trying to work out ROI? Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that gives you a good indication of it. I mean, it's very tricky because it's fraught at every stage with all sorts of little issues that kind of build up. You do hear on social media a lot of kind of gossip about why it's doing this and why it's doing that. But to be honest with you, it's actually fairly straightforward in the way that it interacts. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is nab somebody coming in looking for something similar. And then when they get to the cash desk, the chocolate is laid out as usual. Yeah. And we're trying to make them buy a particular chocolate bar from that point of sale.
Because AMS doesn't use graphics. We don't create graphics for AMS, right? It's just the book where it's placed. So it's all about placement.
Yeah. Which brings me on to the next thing I was going to talk about.
You're welcome.
How do I introduce this? So an author that I worked with for a long time, a successful author, which I can't say, I wondered about this low bid, because you hear a lot about people saying, I'm getting massive sales and I'm only bidding 20p and all this sort of stuff. So I thought, I'm a data scientist. Let's test that. So I took from campaigns keywords that had once been lucrative, but not enough, and had got culled. And I threw them into a brand new campaign. And I started the bid at 11p right at the start, and just let it go and see what would happen. Nothing happened, of course. There were very few clicks. I don't think there were any clicks, in fact. So the next week I went back and put it to 21p, the same. 31p next week, the same. At 41p, I started to get clicks.
Really?
So if you're focused on where you want to be, which is against people who are similar, you need to have a reasonable bid. The people that are getting bids on low cost seem to be getting those sales at the end of the day when everybody else has run out of budget.
Okay.
The danger of that is that when people come and a lot of people have run out of budget and they get shown stuff by Amazon, it's much more likely to be out of genre.
Okay.
Okay, got you.
And what that means is that the algorithm uses exactly the same information that we do on sales and reads, and it doesn't get all of it, to actually work out who are good targets, to find out what it should reach for, and find out what it should back away from with all the auto components. It can contaminate your carousel. It can bring things into your also boards that shouldn't be there. And that way, with that contamination, that will have a detrimental effect on whether the auto elements of a campaign can work for you or not.
Okay.
I remember JT saying this, yes, that you were trying to improve her also boards because they were all out of whack.
Yeah.
So how did you figure out that they were out of whack? And what's your method to bring them back in for anyone who maybe has originally released a book, sold it to all their friends and family, mixed up their also boards terribly, and now they're trying to get, it's a mistake I think every new person makes with their first book. They tell all their friends and family. So from grandma who reads historical romance to cousin who reads military sci-fi, buys it out of a sense of duty. And of course, then your book is sitting
and can I just
chaos.
add that it's not just friends and family buying it, it's Facebook ads, because what have we been taught to target with Facebook ads in the last year? Broad.
Yes, true story.
So lots of people who would maybe not read your genre or that kind of thing, or don't even read a lot, might think, oh, well, I'm going to give this a go. And my also boughts were all over the place, weren't they, Jamie?
Well, it was a mixed bag for you because America was a lot more affected than the UK. Now, the reason for that, as kind of you've hinted at, is where you've been investing and throwing spaghetti against the wall. The contamination affected America worse. When an author comes to me, the way to judge what's going on is to set up a campaign based on very straightforward keywords and see how it rises. And if it doesn't do what I expect it to do, what it would normally do, then that's either carousel contamination or something to do with the product packaging. As Delport said, we don't get the opportunity to put anything in other than what's already there.
Yes.
And if you don't package the product right, then nobody's going to pick it. I've always likened it to like when you stand in the supermarket looking at all the bottles of wine on the shelf. You're not going to know what that wine tastes like until you get it home and uncork it, in the same way that until they actually start reading the book, they won't know whether they want it or not. But you buy on the label, the great recommendation, region, whether it's got fake dust on the bottle or not, all makes an impression on you. And why do you choose that particular bottle of wine? And having a good campaign means that your wine is at eye level and not the one down in the bottom left corner, or the bottom right, whichever way this phone's working. So it's tricky.
So packaging is important with any kind of advertising, but with AMS even more so, because that is what you're seeing. You're seeing the book cover. You're not seeing a pretty ad saying fans of this genre will like blah, blah, blah. You're just seeing the book cover and the title.
Yeah. Now, in the case with you in the US, I could rule out packaging because some targets were doing fine, some targets were doing nothing. If packaging is generally bad, it will affect everything. So if I see traction in only certain areas, that would indicate some degree of contamination. And the only way around that, and it's been a struggle. I mean, I messaged you yesterday and said US is starting to look good.
Yeah.
And it's taken a few months. A lot of that will have come from when I farmed other authors who are in similar genre that you've got positive traction from. Yes. Because their carousel is not contaminated as much, then we can pull in some kind of clean, fresh targets from there, whilst in the background I'm knocking out the ones that just aren't doing anything.
And I think that's another good point that you mentioned a little bit earlier, that this can take months. And AMS is not something it's not like a BookBub ad that you set up and you get results within a day. It really is. It can take absolute months. And I think that's very difficult for the average author to get their head around, because, we want to see our money working quickly. We want to see ROI. We want to see conversions. And AMS just doesn't work that way. It's like a whole different system.
When you say it takes months, it does take months, but you should see things lift. Yes. And you should get to break-even point, as I was describing with the ACOS plus the reads, within a month and a half. Yeah. And if it's a good book, possibly within 2 or 3 weeks. If it's eye-catching and the packaging is right, then it will fly off the shelves.
I think that, like, as you're saying this, and because it's the first time in my life, I actually knew what I was doing when I started writing the book that I'm writing. So when I first started, and I think you were the same, JT, we didn't really know what market we were writing for. We were switching genres. We were making a lot of mistakes. Charlene, out of the gates, this is the woman that has made a lot of money on AMS. Out of the gates, she knew exactly what she wrote to market. Her covers were so slick in genre. So I think that AMS will work a lot better. And this is why I'm thinking maybe I need to try it again now that I know what I'm doing, because I've written a book that I know exactly who it's for. I've given it a cover that fits. It would sit on that shelf. And I think that makes things so much easier for someone like you, Jamie, to market a book that is, you know exactly what it's for and where it's going.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of onus on the author to get all those things right before we even attempt to try and market on something like Amazon ads.
Yeah. The tricky thing is if you're really starting out, you put a new book forward, you're not really known in terms of massive amounts of reviews. That initial climb up to Everest Base Camp is in some ways the hardest part, and there is a degree of luck there as well, you know, and whatever you're doing on social media, because whatever happens, wherever the person lands in Amazon from, be it Facebook, be it AMS, wherever, they will actually just see the book and they will see it's got 12 reviews or 80 reviews, and that doesn't give it credibility. And you're standing in a carousel against other authors that appear to have more credibility. In fact, there's a really good exercise that I often use when I'm talking to an author about how that works, and that's to go out of your genre completely. So, you know, if you're writing romance, then go to crime or sci-fi or wherever you want to go. Pick a reasonable book in that genre and then go down to the sponsored carousel and then just scroll through a couple of pages of that and say to yourself, if I had to buy one of these books, which one would it be?
Okay.
And then when you decide which one it is, ask yourself, why did I choose that one? And then look at the ones either side of it and say, what was it about those that made me choose the other one? Because within your own genre, you know the names, you know everything about it. You know who the good authors are, you know who's got traction, you know where they've been. Outside of your own genre, because it strips that away, you can much more clearly see that I've arrived at the cash desk. There is the chocolate at point of sale.
Yes.
Which chocolate bar am I going to have? And that's what it's really good for getting your eye in, because authors come with this, I've written this great thing, I've spent hours and got somebody to do this great cover, and I've done my blurb and everything like that. Now I need to market it. And you're so stuck in that author mindset that you don't see it from the consumer point of view. And it's understanding that consumer view of the marketing world that makes them pick that. I often say the public take no prisoners and they vote with their feet.
Yeah, they vote with their feet.
No comeback. Sure. You've got no second chance really to get them back. They'll easily distracted. And so when you go and buy a new kettle, study how you go through the process of that. You know, you go onto Amazon or wherever, you look at all the kettles. What makes you decide which kettle you're going to buy? It's all about how humans work up here.
Yeah, and we know how important reviews are, right? We're always after more reviews. I know, like, my buying behavior, I won't look at anything on Amazon. Like, I'm talking about when I buy things like a kettle. I won't look at anything on Amazon that's got less than 4 stars. It has to have at least a couple hundred. Otherwise, I don't go near it. And then I will read the good, the best reviews and the bad and the worst reviews to try and get a feel of what it's really like. Jamie, in your experience, how many reviews do you think are like the flaw of when people start taking it seriously as social proof?
Well, the gas pedal seems to go down a bit when they get to 500.
500.
Before that, the landscape's different before that. 500, because you stand much better against the other people that are in the carousel. Things will start to lift at that point and move forward at that. But to be honest with you, it really does depend on the book and the author, and sometimes the social media presence as well.
Yeah.
Working with lots of different authors in lots of different genres, the fundamental book presence, packaging, and all that is really, really key. You know, good advertising obviously massively helps. But, you know, you can't just put anything up there, advertise it, and expect it to go off the shelf.
It just makes more of a case for our mailing list, Delport, and our beta readers, and how we really do, like, we've always known how important reviews are. Like, it's every newbie author is like, how do I get reviews? How do I get reviews? And we all know that. And it is super easy to get reviews once your book is doing well, once you're spending a lot on Facebook. And like that's when you start getting the thousands. And that's amazing. But in those first few months, we mustn't forget how important it is to get those first hundreds of reviews.
And this is where there's a case for your money working in ways that aren't necessarily direct return on investment, like, because you're also paying for those reviews to get your book to that level where you've got the 500 or the 1,000 that you need. Like, I look at the money I'm spending in the US or in France, and I'm like, okay, well, it's not making me loads, but the reviews are trickling in, and I know from when we first started out, I think my early books still don't have 100 reviews, and they're 13 years old. Whereas new ones have surpassed it because, again, kind of knowing what you're doing. So there's other things you're paying for with this money, whether it's AMS or...
Such a good point. Jamie, is there anything else you think that authors are like really missing when they try and do AMS?
Yeah, if you've got a book and you've got somebody who's very in genre that you want to target on AMS, if you go and put that keyword into a campaign and set it off, if you go to their book and look at the sponsored carousel, if you're not on page 1, 2, or 3 of the turns of that carousel, and often on there you'll see 50 scrolls you can do of the carousel.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's on the sponsored one, definitely. If you're not on the first 3 pages, then it's because your bid is too low.
Yeah.
The other way around, if you go onto their carousel and you see that your book is completely dominating all of page 1 for them, then that's kind of like bullying. You went to the supermarket and there was an advert for the same product, a poster at the end of every aisle.
Yes.
You would basically say, well, I'm not buying that.
Yes. Yeah.
So you don't want to be all the way up front, and you don't want to be massively down. So if you're on page 10, you need a bigger, and if you're all over the front of it, you need to reduce the amount of that bid so that you get to the sweet spot.
Okay, so to jump between looking at your own ads as a consumer and as an author is important as well, to see where you lie.
Yeah. And that way you can balance where you are. Once you know you're in the good position, once you know that, you can say, well, it's not the fact the ad is not in the right place. It must be packaging. It must be that the people who read that author just don't really want to read my book, or not enough of them want to read my book. So you can check where you're going to bid, because if you put those really cheap bids on and you think they're going to do great, but when you actually look, you're on page 20, 25, 30, who's going to see it?
That didn't even occur to me, that you don't want to be all over the place. I mean, obviously you don't want to be like 50th in the carousel of 50 books, but you also don't want to be all over the place. You're right, Jamie. Like I always thought like, yeah, no, that sounds great to be everywhere, but no, you don't want to be that person or that brand.
Well, I see it all the time. You get a new author arrive, and I think I saw some for you yesterday. I'll mention no names.
Okay.
Literally, where I know I'd been getting optimum position on some of your targets, suddenly, for the first 5 full pages of the carousel, there was an author that was basically completely scattergunning. They had listened to, how should we say it, some advice that's normally requires some cash return.
See?
And they have put lots of campaigns up that, very, very hopefully, but what it's done is effectively just thrown loads of their book all over the carousel.
Everywhere.
Everybody's going to go, well, I'm not buying that.
Yeah. Too much.
That never occurred to me. It's very interesting. So I think I know who you're talking about, not the author, but the person who would have changed, cash would have changed hands with, because I know that that's his strategy, to just like be everywhere all at once.
Well, I had an author that started a few months back, a reasonably sized author who started a few months back, who had basically got 2 campaigns that one of them had over 700 keywords in it, one of them had over 800 keywords in it. And when I looked below the surface, only about 7 or 8 of the keywords had ever converted, and not particularly well. And they were all defensive. They were all people who were coming, who would have bought anyway. They came with a search term looking for the person, and happened to trip over an ad on the way, which cost a click to something that was in the back.
Yes.
And if that happens again and again and again and again, the erosion on your bottom line is huge.
So can we talk a bit about defensive ads? Because I think a lot of authors, they either don't really understand why you would do them, or they overdo them. What is your strategy with defensive ads?
Is this where you advertise to protect your own page from being... Okay, yes, that was going to be my next question too.
Look at us, Delport, hey?
So, yeah, you need a degree of defense. It does help, but just a degree. And they should always be massively positive in terms of what they're bringing in. And all they're literally there for is, if somebody comes and looks at you, by putting yourself in that carousel up the front, you're pushing the competition away from the public gaze.
Okay.
Okay.
You're killing their brand burning and making sure your brand gets burned, and they know about your other titles as well.
We're going to war. I'm excited. It feels very aggressive. Like, nobody come here. Nobody come here.
You're paying so much on Facebook to get people to click to your page, then you really do want them to consider buying your product.
But you don't want them everywhere. So normally what I would do is in the initial campaign that I put in with good keywords to see how things are going to fly, to see whether contamination is a factor or packaging is a factor, I'll put in the author name and maybe a series name in there as defensive, and that will be enough, because in theory that will show 3 images, maybe 5 of your book in your carousel, and that should be at the front. And in fact, somebody yesterday snuck into JT's defensive carousel.
Rude.
Gonna be me soon.
Oh, no,
Did we get rid of them, Jamie?
I shored up defense, but I also used them as a keyword too, because if the algorithm had identified that JT was a good target, then surely that's a two-way street.
Sorry, how many keywords should an ad include? What is like if an author's gonna, I haven't done Amazon ads for so long, and as you're speaking, it's kind of coming back to me. I can't even remember how the targeting works. So if you could just touch on like the best practice for targeting, but it's keywords, right? Of like comparable authors, comparable books, oops, is it all that stuff? But then also, how many kind of keywords per ad should someone include? Because I remember they used to say like hundreds.
It depends on the author, it depends on the book, and it depends on how confident you are. But ultimately, you need to start farming keywords. So you need to put some in there, find out what works, and then based on those ones that work, you can farm forward from there. So I'm giving a little bit too much away here. The best source of keywords will always be your also bought, unless you've got carousel contamination.
Okay.
Because if they've bought your book and they've bought the other author's book, then you know that there is the Venn diagram of your 2 books has got a crossover.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, got you.
If it's over here,
yeah, that makes
sense. Also found on that point, Jamie, I've just started doing BookBub ads, and the most successful author targets I have are directly from my also bought, and it just makes so much sense, right? Like we know those readers are buying those people's books, so it makes sense that
later on, if one of those converts, then without saying too much, it would be interesting to go and see who's also bought them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So the rabbit hole can go on forever. We would just like to take this time to tell you guys a bit more about Scribe Shadow. JT and I use Scribe Shadow tirelessly. We do all our translations through the app. It is incredible. Scribe Shadow is a perfect partner for indie authors who don't want to leave money on the table. They use cutting-edge AI to make novel translation fast, affordable, and super easy. In just minutes, your book can be translated into over 19 languages, and that is growing all the time, with high-quality results ready to reach readers everywhere.
And this isn't some faceless tech giant. Scribe Shadow is a small family-run team with indie roots. They've been in the trenches running a small publishing press, so they get the author grind. That's why they built a tool that's practical, budget-friendly, and designed with indie authors in mind. Plus, they offer cover creation, audiobook translation, and a simple one-credit system for everything. Best of all, you keep full rights to your work, and your books are never used to train AI.
Scribe Shadow has been very generous and given us our very own coupon code, which gets you 30% off your first month of using the app. If you are looking at getting into translations, please would you consider using Pen and Prosper 30? That's PENAND PROSPER 30, and doesn't cost you any extra, and it just lets Scribe Shadow know that we are sending traffic to them and that we are supporting them. If an author is new to this game and doesn't have a lot of time or capacity to learn and upskill in terms of their own marketing and can't afford at that point yet to get someone like you to manage their ads, would you say that they would be better suited to do Facebook or Amazon ads starting out?
Ooh, the $64 million question. Amazon in some ways is more straightforward because we don't get the opportunity to put any other imagery out there.
Just apples for apples.
There's less mud in that water, because ultimately, how do you know your ad is good and how do you know your ad is bad? That kind of thing. And we know from Facebook that the testing is really, really important and really, really involving, and the app is really, really confusing. And there are so many people out there that have got different advice on how you...
And they keep changing things.
Yeah. So I would probably say that Facebook is a good vehicle for getting you forward. However, that depends on you having a good image, a good strap, and something that is successful. If you don't have the budget for that, or you're not confident enough for that, AMS is a safer bet, but it is a much slower burn. It's a much slower grow, and you need to keep an eye on it. But, when I go to Vegas, a lot of the time, an author comes up to me and says, "Oh, what do you write?" And I say, "I'm a data scientist." I've often thought about actually inventing a book series so that I don't have to say that anymore. And then the advice starts, and you can see that there's a lot of snake oil out there. There's a lot of advice out there, and I have the data to prove, what works and what doesn't work ultimately.
Okay.
I can read the numbers. And also coming from corporate and having that really systems background, I understand how the systems work and the databases work and all those sorts of things. So yeah, Amazon probably is a good foot forward, but it really depends on a number of things. But you kind of hit the nail on the head. If you're starting out, if you're between genres or you're not clear what your genre is, then you will struggle, because ultimately at the beginning you have to write to market. In the same way that, painting, if Caroline wants to make money painting landscapes and stuff like that, she has to see what's current in the market.
Yeah, it's so important. That initial phase of sitting down to write that book, you have to have everything has to be planned, and you have to know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited to maybe retest Amazon ads, and that because it is the first time that I have a product that I wrote purely to market.
Jamie, can you give
I'm definitely going to do
some
some
like 101 tips? Like where does she start? She hasn't been in AMS for years. Pretend she knows nothing. Like how does she start?
Don't have to pretend, Jamie. Don't pretend. She knows nothing.
Right. Well, step one would be look on Amazon, look at your also bots, and see basically on those
where I'm sitting.
Be wary though, because actually, I mean, I do it in a special way, but if you're doing it manually, you find an also bought in there for a series that's current for another author, and they are currently a book 10, but the also bought says book 2, and there's nothing after that, then that could be an also bought from a long time ago when you did, when you had some success in some areas. So you want to look for what's current, just jot down the names. And there's not much point you actually targeting a specific book, because when you do that, when the book is not hot anymore because the new one's out, then you'll see the ad dies off. So you need to write down the series name and the author name, and those would be your keywords. Another gold nugget here would be, so let's say you're going to target Jake.
You dare.
For your friend.
So you've got 3 types of things that you can base as a target. You've got the exact term, the phrase, and then the other one that I never use, which is broad. I've only needed to use broad, I think, 3 times in the last 4 years. So if you were to do JT Lawrence exact, then that looks at the search term, and you can find these on AMS as to what people actually search for. If you do exact, then anybody typing JT Lawrence into the search bar at the top, in theory, will trigger your ad. And then where you appear depends on how many other people have done the same thing. However, if you put JT Lawrence as a phrase, then that means as long as the JT and the Lawrence in that order appear anywhere, it doesn't matter what they search. So they could come in typing great books by JT Lawrence and it would find it, or JT Lawrence books and it would find it, or, JT Lawrence smells would even find it, whatever they put in. So phrase is the way forward. Exact means it's literally too tight.
Okay. Which is better, to use the phrase or the phrase? Okay.
All day, every day.
Oh, I love that. All day, every day.
Yeah. Because it's how computers work, it's how search strings work. Broad is different in that if you did it broad, then it would basically work the other way around, in which case it would pick up anybody putting Lawrence JT in. If you think about that, it becomes far too broad, far too quick, and far too less.
I know. I've seen where I've typed in, like, even on like TikTok or something, I'll type in a name and then it'll bring up like if someone mentioned that person and has nothing to do with it, or if there's like in the scope of their caption, those terms appear, but they don't actually got nothing to, I didn't do that on purpose.
So Delport's setting up her first ads. Now she's got her keywords. Yeah. What else does she have to know?
Okay.
When you set those keywords off, the suggested bid it will give you is usually pants. You need to basically ignore that.
Okay.
And in the last 4 months, I actually got a bit of code that sucks in what the low, median, and high bid should look like for every individual keyword that I'm running for JT and everybody else, and categorically proven that it's completely pans. So yeah, so you want to basically, to start out with, choose a reasonable bid that isn't 20p. It's much more likely to be up in the 80s or 90s to start you off, and then give that to all of them. And then let the dust settle when you launch the campaign and come back a couple of days later to see where you're featuring in that sponsored ad carousel. The other thing is, so dynamics fix.
So go to your keywords and look if you've come up in any of their carousels.
Go to the target, go to this sponsored ad carousel.
Okay.
Am I on page 1?
Okay.
If you're all over page 1, you need to adjust that bid you've made down. If you're on page 25, you need to adjust that bid up to bring you to the front. If you're really, really, really lucky, some days when you make that change on AMS, you can immediately see the effect of it on Amazon itself. But you might need to clear your cache and then redo the page.
Okay.
But I say it doesn't happen all the time. You've got to be lucky. And those days, I'm kind of all over it like a rash learning stuff.
Okay.
So fixed bids is the safe bet. It will basically go forward and put your bid forward, whatever. If you have a contaminated carousel or the algorithm knows nothing about you, dynamic is not going to work for you because the algorithm's not going to have any idea what it's supposed to reach for.
Okay.
So for someone like me starting out, fixed bids are just safest. Like that's what I'm prepared to bid and it's bid it.
I would normally start fixed. So here's another thing. In the old days, when I first started doing it, I knew that if I had 2 authors that were hitting the same target, if I put the same bid in against those 2 authors, their books would appear in the sponsored carousel next to each other. Because the bid, what decided where you sat in that position. Since late spring this year, that has not been the case. I know I have 2 authors who are targeting the same person, and I know one of them, I'm spending a lot less money on the bid, but they are getting in page 1. The other one, I'm paying a lot more, and I'm not getting anywhere near page 1.
Okay.
So without revealing any more, I would say there are other factors in play.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. I'm going to have to get Caroline drunk one night.
Well, I'm meeting up with these guys in Ireland, so...
You're going to have to get Caroline drunk one night.
Is Delport not coming to
Jamie, you're going to have to hold those secrets close to your chest, Jamie. Don't even let your wife know. She's one of us now. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I mean, that gives me a lot to get on. I mean, the keyword searching is going to take me time anyway. Remember that keyword generating thing that was so popular years ago? Rocket.
I still have it.
Called Rocket.
Yeah.
Do you still use Rocket?
I don't, because they're much easier, more efficient
ways to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's Jamie's like, no.
You want to know the data science about Rocket?
No. Oh, okay. All right. I won't re-download that.
Let's not get ourselves into legal trouble.
No. Well, no. I think it's important. Whilst working it was about 18 months ago with the big author, she really wanted to use Rocket because she'd signed up for it. The keywords had come out, and she was insistent. And I kind of said, well, okay, all right, it's your money. Let's give it a go. So I took the publishing Rocket words, put them in a campaign that I would normally do, and set it off as usual. And there was a little bit here and there, but it very, very quickly didn't really get much traction. And I think the main reason for that is everybody pretty much gets the similar words on Rocket. And once that list gets round and once everybody starts hitting it, the bid price starts going through the roof. If you had a Rocket that was your own Rocket but nobody else saw, it would probably be fine.
So Jamie, if I wrote a series, which I have, I'm busy writing a series now, and I can tell you, like, if someone says to me, what are you writing? And I'll say, well, if you liked this author, you're going to love my series, right? But she's not in my also bought. I can still use that as a keyword. That's still a smart move because I want to eventually get into a keyword. Is that correct? Or should I not use her?
When I've got an author standing up on straight keyword ads, I'll then try an auto. And if the auto goes, because the carousel's not contaminated, the auto often ends up doing the heavy lifting. And then I will use a keyword ad to steer it. And that way I keep the auto from going a little bit off the rails. If there was somebody that JT really wanted to get in with, then I would run that keyword probably at a loss for a while, because if we can sell enough books to that author, then we will appear in their also boughts, which is advertising for free. It's also more trusted because it's not sponsored. So I would use sponsored ads to basically get enough traction with that one author to then appear in their also boughts, in which case we get free advertising.
Okay, got you. Because I have a really strong comp, a really, really strong comp. And I'm like, okay, if I can get it, they just kind of align. Even my BookBub ads, I'm targeting that author. So hopefully that will help. So, okay, great. Shane, thank you. That's very, very helpful.
You can also think, AMS aside, think of other ways you can align your brand with hers.
Well, I'll ask her for an interview, JT. That's your strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You taught. I can't believe you got Jenn Mitchell on.
Yeah, I mean, you could do content marketing. You can ask her for an interview or ask her whatever she's willing to give you. But you can also do stuff without her permission that's mutually beneficial. So, you could speak about one of her books. But you know all this. I mean, I'm just saying, like, the more content marketing you do with her in mind, the better, because you want your name to be synonymous with her.
Yes. Is that that's what you're going for with Jenn Mitchell, right?
Yeah. Like it's like the halo effect, right?
It is. I think the only thing that I would be worried about in your case is, and I remember hearing this from my traditional publisher years ago, and it's always just stuck in my head that generally, and I say this with all due respect, Jamie, to your gender, generally men don't like to read books written by women.
Yes.
And so I would just worry about that gender line. I think it does exist, as much as we are slowly ticking away at it, that a lot of women like to read books written by women and a lot of men do like to read books written by men.
Yes.
So I think that's the only thing that might just work against you in this whole strategy. But I think he's big enough that it won't eventually matter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So for me, it's not like the comp we're talking about for you. That is that is all encompassing. Like if you can be on her page in any way, that will be amazing for you.
It's the two books are literally aligned. Yeah.
But for me, it's more about being in the urban fantasy space. So I'm not just focusing on Jim. I was just really lucky to get that interview. I'm also focusing on all the other urban fantasy authors. I'm going to try and
Heather and all of that.
get the halo effect with those guys. And then also like the gender thing is interesting. I was actually talking to Mike about it last night because urban fantasy is actually a very female-driven genre. Most of the urban fantasy books in the top 100 are written by women. They've got women on the covers. While epic fantasy is seen as more of a male genre, urban fantasy is kind of more of a female genre. So it is interesting to keep that in mind. And I know my readers. My readers are 45-year-old women. That's it. Yeah. So you read Jenn Mitchell too.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to read his series just based on the interview because he just came across as such a fantastic guy. And I was like, I think I've read one years ago, but I'm definitely diving back in.
Excellent. Jamie, is there anything else you think Delport needs to know about her first AMS campaign?
Well, something you said earlier, Delport, at the start as well, you said it. You've gone and got your initial reviews, which are normally friends and family. It's really important that you don't let them buy. You should give them free.
No, so I haven't. Yeah, at the moment, I'm not letting. I'm like, nope, don't you dare, don't buy my book.
The other killer is getting plugged. If you get plugged anywhere at any time by anybody, you need to be absolutely, totally insistent on the fact that they don't say, check out this author. They have got to say, if you like fantasy, if you like sci-fi, then this is a great author. Every time you get plugged, the genre must be mentioned at all costs.
Such a good point, Jamie. That is such a good point. And I feel bad because I shared Rachel's post the other day without even thinking.
Me too.
Yeah, so it happens a lot, and you may have inadvertently contaminated Carousel.
Yes. Oh, shame. Oh, sorry, Rach.
Sorry, Rach.
I also shared it, but I shared yours, Sorry. Last time I try and help.
And the annoying thing about it is, and this happened a good few years ago when I first learned about this problem. I was working with somebody who's got a very successful series in cozy crime in the UK, and he was good friends with another person who was doing paranormal romance and had quite a large Facebook following. And she plugged him in her Facebook group without that context. And the effect wasn't immediate. It took about a month and a half for things to start rolling off. But his ads completely died. And even on reissue, I split them into the ones that once were good, the ones that were all right, and the ones that were crap, and put them up in those categories in 3 new campaigns. The ones that were once good never really recovered, even on reissuing campaigns.
No, that's terrible.
So,
And that's beyond author control. So it's like, it's devastating.
yeah, but it's, you know, that was an extreme case because of the magnitude, because of the social following. If you think, even with that extreme case, I didn't immediately see the rot setting in. It took a month and a half, you know, and then immediately you're worrying about, well, why is everything suddenly dying now? What have I done? You don't think to look back a month and a half at what you did a month and a half ago, that might have an effect that far ahead of you.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean,
and does it eventually get to critical mass where like your book has now done well enough and it's sold enough copies to the right audience that something small won't derail everything?
Yeah, in terms of magnitude. But to be honest with you, once you get above 25,000 reviews, the game changes then, and the way that you use AMS is different.
Oh, well, that'll be next week. Then we'll have another episode.
Yeah.
We'll have to have another episode in Jan. Did you say 25,000 reviews?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so so that's our new goal, Delport.
That's the goal. Just get to 25,000 and then we get Jamie back on.
Well, I mean, on saying that, if you target somebody who's got more than 25,000 reviews, you have to be a little careful, because once you get that much of a review level, the genre starts to get grade, because people looking for a good book.
Because it's now mainstream.
Yeah, your mood readers are coming in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
You get the more cerebral readers coming in. You see that usually in sci-fi. So people who read sci-fi are normally more cerebral or more likely to read fantasy and a good book or a good thriller or a kind of old classic, because of the type of reader.
Yes. Whereas the typical KU genre reader is not like that. They love their tropes and they love
And some of them are so militant about their swim lane as well. They really won't even go slightly sideways into a slightly different genre.
Yeah, I always found it fascinating. Can you imagine reading like one or two genres for the rest of your life?
I'm such a mood reader. I'll go from 50 Shades to The Martian to I will read what I feel like on that day.
But have you looked at The Martian and seen who's in the autos?
No.
That'll be interesting.
Have a look at the also boards, and then have a look at the sponsored ad carousel to see who's trying to target it.
Okay, that's a good idea. And it probably won't even be all the sci-fi authors.
No, it won't be. Yeah.
I loved that book so much.
So good.
I think I've got traction on The Martian. Yeah, I have.
Oh, really? Oh, are you targeting it? And it's such a big title.
Yeah, I can't tell you who, but sci-fi writer.
Okay, sure. Okay, and Jamie, and should an author then decide they have absolutely no desire to attempt any of this and they would rather just pay Jamie Brooks to do it for them? How long is the wait list for you? Are you at capacity for anyone, like if someone's watching and thinks, oh, Jamie's my guy, like I'm going to reach out to Jamie, just so that you don't get inundated with our millions and millions of subscribers?
I have to be, it's not necessarily about the book, the series, the current traction or anything like that. I will have an hour call with them free, because I need to know whether I can work with that person.
Okay.
A lot of problems that have come up have been really because people are really precious about their work. They're very precious about covers that they've done themselves. They're not necessarily to open ideas. Having a good advertising campaign is not the be-all and end-all. It's only part of it. So it's really seeing how the public react to that campaign and then making the changes to move yourself forward from that point onwards. So I would say no series that's got anything less than 4 stars or above. I would be looking for traction in that 600 or so. Ideally, I'd like a book 1 over 1,000.
Sorry, 1,000 reviews.
Yeah. Ideally, because. But then, there are some authors that come that have contamination, and you yourself are suffering some of that. I've seen worse as well. So it's making sure that I'm clear about the expectation and the fact that this isn't a magic bullet. It's not, miraculously overnight. You're not immediately going to need a bigger bank account, because it may not happen. And if it doesn't happen, you've bought intel. You've bought what the public are going to vote on. What does that data tell us about what's not right? And then we correct it. And then we go again. Because then what went wrong the first time, all that data is then a benchmark. And when you make an improvement, if that improves your sales and reads, then that improvement has, is moving you in the right direction.
I think, Jamie, what you said about people being precious about their covers, I think authors, especially new authors, make this horrible mistake. And I mean, I remember JT, I'll never forget the day that she called me out so hard, and I had a series in us, and she said, "What genre is your series?" And I said, "Well, it's urban fantasy." And she said, "Well, maybe you should tell your covers." And she was so, because I was digging my heels because, oh, but I like the covers, and I kept carping on about these ridiculous covers that looked like Aragon, and JT could see it. She took one look and was like, "The covers are all wrong." And I was being all precious because, but I bought the dragon from down this art place, and it was changed those covers with Christian like she told me to, and almost immediately the sales lifted, just because I actually just went, you know what, let me listen to what someone who actually knows what they're doing. So I think if someone wants to work with someone like you, they have to first and foremost understand you are the expert. So you trusting someone to do it doesn't, then you have to listen to what they're going to tell you to do.
I'm expert in data handling. So if a question comes up, my brain immediately goes, what data do I have available?
Exactly.
And how can I prove that with the data that I've got? Is that right? Is that wrong?
That's what I love. You can't argue with data. I love that so much.
And we all get it wrong. I mean, whenever Caroline's done a Facebook campaign for somebody, including JT, we'll all sit around with the author and basically, have a little sweepstake on which one we think is going to do best. More often than not, we're wrong, because it's about what the public are deciding. It's more about turning your gut off. There are a lot of people out there that spout all sorts of stuff about and working with their gut. And I was actually listening to a YouTube yesterday that an author was doing where he'd spoken to somebody else who said trust your gut, and it doesn't work.
When they trust your gut, you say it could be farts. It could be farts.
Yeah.
Your gut doesn't know anything.
So I really believe in trusting your intuition. Listening to your gut is not the same thing, because your gut could be like, you could be making a decision based in fear. You could be making a decision based in insecurity. And that feeling that you get, that's like, oh, I want to do it this way. That is not a good way to make decisions, right? I think intuition is very different. It's a more all-encompassing thing when you're confident and you make decisions from faith instead of fear. But all that said, you don't have to worry about any of that as long as you have the data, because the data will show you the way. And that's why we test everything. And that's why I'm going to be click testing everything from covers to blurbs to strap lines going forward, because that is really how you run a profitable business, right? You don't go on your gut feel.
No. Unfortunately, though, in the game, especially in Facebook, the landscape changes in terms of how you set a campaign and what's going on in the background of all of that. That happens regularly, and also there are effects outside that I've seen affect books, including political events and things like that, made or broken a series. There's a lot of outside influence. There is a degree of luck. There's a degree of you one TikTok going viral, and being in the right place at the right time. There is a degree of luck to it. You can't control everything. But as JT says, test, retest, to find out what the public are actually doing as best you can, and then follow that.
Okay. Yeah.
Jamie, I'm sorry we've kept you so long. It's been over an hour.
And we've taken up so much of your time.
It's because you're such easy company, Jamie. The time just flies. Thank you. We really, really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure there'll be questions, and we'd love to have you on again sometime in the future, if you don't mind. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to say?
It is a massive subject.
Yeah.
One of the things is where are you at the moment? Then it's strategy moving forward, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. Genre changes strategy, but I've given you kind of nuggets for people who are just starting to climb the tree. Maybe people are a bit more advanced. Give it a go. Test it. Does it do better than what you've seen before?
Yes.
Go from there.
Have you found any one genre is easier? Do you if you find a genre, you're like, oh, this one's going to be a little bit easier on me than something else? Or no, it just depends on the book?
Well, some are more competitive than others. The genres where people are kind of stuck in this swim lane can be a bit tight. It's the best genre. It's kind of, if I was going to write a book, which genre would I choose?
Yes, which genre would you write in?
I mean, cozy works well on all fronts because of the older age range and the people that are using Facebook, so marketing on Facebook works and all those sorts of things. Hitting a younger audience is always been fraught, always been hard, and requires a big social media presence.
Well, TikTok has kind of changed that.
Yeah, but of all the people I've worked with, I've only known people have one thing go viral that's given them the push. They haven't consistently been able to maintain that is relying on you. There's definitely not so much control over where you go with that.
That's a lot of
For
luck,
sure.
I think. I think that's huge luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got plenty to be getting on with.
So you're going to go and do your AMS thing,
keywords.
and then you're going to
go,
have questions and data to share with Jamie next time.
Definitely.
Delport, we should have a look together probably.
Thanks, Jamie. So you can spend an hour with Jamie and you can tear apart your AMS.
And tell me I'm just like,
Yeah. No, it's good.
It's fine. JT does it so often, I'm used to it. We say in our group, and I'll be like, how am I so bad at this? And then I'll show proof, and JT's like, you really are very
Oh,
bad.
no, that's not true.
No, there's certain things that my brain just doesn't do. And then there's other things that I'm great at.
Well, that's why I don't do the arty stuff. I do the data.
Lots of talents, Delport. As I
thank
tell
you,
my
Jamie.
children, everyone has different talents.
Yes, this is it. Exactly. I mean, hello. Do we remember? It's not going to do it. It's going to. Thank you so much. Oh, Jamie's still going to try. Thank you so much, Jamie. You've been so wonderful. It's just, you and Caroline are such a dynamic duo. Like, sure. I'd love to come and be a fly on the wall in your home for a week.
Me too. Me too.
Lovely.
Thank you so much,
Try again.
Jamie. Thank you, Delport. Thank you, Willem, for sponsoring the show. And we'll see you next time.
Yes. Jamie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.